Hi, guys. I'm Dr. Jenny White, a dentist in Sarasota, Florida, and her fearless patient, Susan, with our new and exciting podcast, Open Wide, Be Careful What You Tell Your Dentist. Over the past 25 or so years, I've been sitting in a little room talking to myself all day, and I've gained a lot of wisdom through that process, which I want to share with you. We are two women in our mid-whatevers who want to have fun and talk about our daily lives in a Seinfeld kind of way, although we admit we are far from Jerry Seinfeld in the humor department. We hope our podcast casts optimism and fearlessness to you so you can remember that you can rise to the top, stay at the top, and dream bigger than you've ever imagined. So on today's show, the soup du jour is generosity. And I'm super excited about this one, Susan, because it just makes life go round, I feel, being generous to people. And I want to get your take on this, but I want to open this up by kind of just giving a couple little lines from, I of course asked Webster's, I looked into Catholicism, Buddhism, ChatGPT. I asked Perplexity, the AI tool, what their definition of generosity was. And there's some little bits and pieces of what was said that I thought were interesting. They mentioned it's a quality of the heart or mind, love of God and neighbor. It's essential that you have boundaries for maintaining your integrity so that you can practice generosity. And interestingly enough, it used to be associated with nobility, but it's evolved to be a personal quality that anyone can cultivate. Hooray, that applies to you and me. So how do you define generosity?
Yeah, I have a personal story actually I'd like to share, but I'm glad that you found a definition that's a broad definition of generosity, because you tend to think of generosity in terms of monetary exchange, right? Remember those notes you had to write when you were a kid? Dear Aunt Betty, thank you for your generous gift at Christmas. That kind of thing. Remember those? So, but generosity for me actually means the time that people put into helping you in your life. So I lost my husband a year ago. Yeah, like I know where he is. It's not like he's not found or anything, but a little humor here. Anyway, so but he was diagnosed with a rare bone marrow cancer called myelofibrosis 6 years before he died. And with that awful diagnosis came some good news. And the good news was that there was a 100% cure for myelofibrosis, and it would be a bone marrow transplant. So we were eager to find him a bone marrow donor so that we could save his life. So we have these magnificent friends. There's 6 couples that once they heard the news about my husband, they immediately rallied together to form a team called Team Faru. That was his name, in an effort to try to find him the bone marrow that he needed to save his life. Now, when I say these folks worked hard, I am telling you, they had monthly meetings. You had to show up with your assignment done, or you sort of get yelled at if you did your assignment. Like they took it very seriously. And they went to college campuses to try to get young folks swabbed and into the networks, Be the Match or Gift of Life, so that if somebody needed their stem cells, they would be readily available. They went to college campuses, medical schools. They went to Turkish communities. My husband was Turkish, and ethnicity plays a role in a donor. And went to Turkish communities to try to get people swabbed, went to the consulates and the embassies all over the United States. And then we went outside the United States to look for it. My point of this is this was 6 couples, 12 people who did not need to any more, stress in their lives. And just took this effort on and tried to find a bone marrow donor for my husband. Now, it never worked that we found anything for him. I told him it was because he was so special. There really wasn't a good match for him. But what it did do is help a lot of other people. And we raised the numbers significantly about how many people got into the registries like Be the Match or Gift of Life. And by the way, if anybody's listening who's 40 or under, age plays a role. So we couldn't actually, go into the registries ourselves because they want young stem cells. But if anybody 40 or under, please get swabbed and get into one of these registries because you could really save a life. So for me, that's a personal definition of generosity where people just stepped up to the plate. They didn't even ask any questions, and often they used their own resources to get from place to place to help us out. So if that isn't the epitome of generosity for this team, Faru, as we call them, I don't know what is.
I've got to say, a medical crisis is something that not only brings us to our knees, but you'll find gifts in others as you experienced with generosity,
Yeah.
that you just can't even put words to.
Yeah.
And that is such a beautiful story. And in the wanting to help your husband, you guys elevated a level of medicine and science and brought awareness to it. So just by indirectly all your friends being generous, look at what the good, the resultant good was.
Right.
That's
Exactly.
amazing.
Right. We didn't meet our primary goal, but what we got in return was a lot of people were helped through these efforts, and I'll be forever grateful for the generosity of this group of friends.
God bless all of them.
I know, they're
really.
just great.
God
really
bless
great.
all of them.
Yeah.
And your strength through it is a shining star. We're going to do a podcast on that as well. One thing that I've encountered in being generous is if I don't have some protective boundaries for myself, I end up, I guess because I'm a dentist, I'm used to giving, I end up trying to over deliver, AKA exhaustion. And then I'm really in a hole and I can't help anybody, including myself. So for me, even at work, I have to maintain a level of a boundary. And I think boundaries and generosity go together. I don't know. What do you think?
I never thought of it like that until just this minute when you mentioned it. But of course, if you are depleted yourself, you just can't be generous in any form to anybody else. So we talk a lot in these podcasts about making sure you're balanced. Each one of us is balanced because then we can be a better human being. And that plays into this subject of generosity, I think, because if you're depleted, you've got nothing left to give.
And it's on a totally different and light note. When I was driving to the studio today, I saw a gentleman on a skateboard and it had one of those automatic tires, in the middle of it. So he's like cruising down the sidewalk. He had shorts on, a t-shirt, a big straw hat. He had a mug of something and he's just cruising down the sidewalk. And I thought to myself, what could that guy do right now that would be generous? And, even just a wave from somebody or a smile from somebody, or you giving a smile to someone or waving at someone or giving a thumbs up is a form of generosity. Generosity doesn't have to be, I'm hiking the Himalayas for you, or it can be a smile.
Right.
As simple as that.
Yeah, I think that's a good point too, because, this is such an unkind world that we're in. I know we're going to talk in a later podcast about kindness, but this is a really unkind world that we're living in right now. And everybody is feeling the stress. And so whenever you can be generous of your spirit to somebody else, that just lifts them up. And it could be money, it could be an effort like the one I just described, or a smile like you just said. But you're right, it's being generous.
And I think too, I sort of thought about the word generosity and I thought, okay, generosity. Generate means to create something, and osity, kind of your quality of being. So we can generate our quality of being. So every day that I wake up, I can say to myself, if I'm not feeling in a generous state or a kind state or in a state that I'd rather be in, it's in my control to do so. And of course, being a child of the 80s, I immediately go to Janet Jackson.
Yeah.
Control.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think we talk about this a lot, that if you are generous to yourself and taking care of yourself and going to that yoga practice or going to the cycling studio or wherever you go, you are in a way better place to help other people too.
So by moving the body, I feel like you can change your state, which can put you into a generous state. Yeah, because if you're going for a quick sprint or bicycling very fast, kind of get out of your mind.
Yeah.
And you're just in your body, and then you come back to your mind and you can jump into the generous state. At least that's what I find true for me.
Yeah, I think that's very true. And we should talk sometime about the hormones that are that are kicked up when you're doing some exercise and how that affects your overall mood and things like generosity.
It would be so nice if we could just bottle those and take a little capsule instead of having to get on the treadmill.
Wouldn't that be great?
That would be awesome.
Can't you work on that?
I'll get right on that. Yeah. Yeah, no, I really feel like every day when I wake up, and I work in a dental office, obviously, I want to deliver for each and every patient that comes in. And a lot of times, I'm dealing with people that'll come in and tell me things like, just diagnosed with cancer, need double hip replacements. Someone else in their family has cancer. I mean, all sorts of things are hitting people, as you said, along with the worldview, along with politics, along with finances, and I say to myself in those moments, I say, how can I give to this person? Whether it's take extra time when I'm doing that injection, whether it's spend a little bit more time talking, whether it's switching it up and not even doing whatever it was I said I was going to do today. How can I, in my little way, in my little weirdo world, be generous for this patient?
Mm.
And I consider all my patients my friends, to be honest with you. It is a dental family in every sense of the word. And so I'm not perfect. And God knows I misjudge or make mistakes. And that brings me to another point. Judgment and generosity. I don't think you can have both at the same time. I struggled with being a judgy person because I was raised as a little perfectionistic child. And part of that was my mother was a constant judger of others. And so I think to myself, if you're a judgy person, you really can't be generous at the same time because you're so busy judging, which brings the focus back on me. I feel like if you're going to be generous, the focus has to be off of you.
Yeah, I think that's a good point.
And on to others.
Yep, I think that's a really good point. And, the story I just told, I had never really lost anybody very, very close to me in my entire life. My parents, of course, but that was expected. They were 86 and 84. So now I am much more attuned to people in their loss. And I can be generous now with my story, or at least my experience, and somebody who's, not as far ahead in the game or the process of grief as I am. I can reach out to them, and I can be a shoulder for them to cry on, or someplace where they could talk about their loss. And that gives me great pleasure. And I never really realized how much people need that until I went through it myself.
And I think going through it yourself, I don't want to speak for you, but it's almost like crossing some imaginary finish line of sorts. And you have this level of compassion and empathy that opens up that you've never really tapped into before.
There's no question about that. Yeah, there's no question about that. Yeah.
And that is a form of generosity. So possibly by just living long enough, and if we're paying attention and are awake, quote unquote, and we realize we've crossed that finish line and we have this ability to be compassionate, maybe generosity is sort of built in as we get older.
It could be a byproduct of human experience. If you've never gone through something, then you just don't understand what the other person is going through until you have the same human experience. And in that point, yes, you're right. You open up a whole new level of emotions and understanding that you didn't have before. At least I didn't have before.
This is a word from our sponsor, which is no sponsor, which is basically just us, right? Can I say that?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Okay, so now this is the section of the podcast where we have our daily drink. And today we're having Generosity rum. Now, what makes it generosity is this glitter that goes on top, which is edible glitter.
Okay, so let me.
How pretty that looks?
I'm just going to describe this for our listeners here. So this is a big wine glass that is filled with a mystery tannish, orangish liquid, and Susan has just taken, to me, what appears to be hair glitter and poured it in my drink. I'm swirling it, and it's getting psychedelic looking.
Yeah. Well, Amazon tells me it is edible glitter. I guess we'll find out.
So if someone keels over on this podcast.
Right. But actually, this drink, which is a rum plus coconut rum plus a lime juice, a couple other things, calls for cream of coconut. Right. So I have cream of coconut at home, and I grab my little jar and I go to bring it, and it's expired in 2022. which I would have mixed into the drink anyway. But now I'm worried about you because you've got a whole year of root canals you got to do, and I want people yelling at me, "What did you kill the dentist for?" So it doesn't. It would. I think it'd be better with cream.
My people would be very upset.
Yeah, they would be. So I think it would be better with the cream of coconut. But I do think the glitter adds a little thing, don't you?
It really does, and it's chilled. It's incandescent, and it looks like it's a lot of liquor. So here we go. Here we go.
It's very good.
Mm.
Yeah, nice.
I feel like I've never been on a cruise ship, but I feel like I'm on a cruise ship, and the waiter at the pool bar has just poured me a very stiff drink. I would recommend this drink.
Okay, well, good.
This is a great one. How do we make it again?
Well, I'd have to pull the phone out and get the recipe, but it's a
lot
little
of
bit
liquor,
of this,
a lot of liquor, and some glitter.
Rum. Coconut cream, if you have one that's not expired, or if you're like me, use the one that's expired. Coconut cream, rum, lime juice, orange juice. Yeah, all
it's
mixed
yummy.
Together. Yeah,
it's refreshing.
It's very refreshing.
And I
agree.
feel like if I just drank maybe a half an inch of this,
right,
I would be good to go.
Okay. Now, on the last podcast, I talked about cornstarch in your shoes to get rid of squeaky shoes, right?
Oh, yes.
So we today I've come with another suggestion for everybody called boob tape. Have you ever seen boob tape?
So that is spelled BOOBTAPE. You heard it right. Boob tape. Never heard of this.
What is that word called when you can? It's the same front and back, not an onomatopoeia. But
interesting.
It's one of those words. Yeah. So I'm just going to tell our listeners, who I think are going to be mostly women,
okay,
that you need to get boob tape. It gets the girls right up and perky again. Okay. And then you add the rum mix and you're all good.
So what you're saying is boob tape and rum drink go together.
Absolutely.
Now, I'm also looking at this packaging here, and this says water resistant for up to 12 hours of continuous wear to keep you shaped anytime, anywhere. So, wow, this is, if it were bulletproof, it's waterproof, and it's boob tape.
Yeah.
So that's very interesting.
So that's the hint for the day.
You know, I love duct tape, right? You know, I love duct tape.
Yes, right.
I'm wondering if this could substitute in a pinch.
Well, I don't know why.
You never know.
I don't think it holds as strongly as duct tape. So, it would have to be, depending upon what the usage was. But yeah, sure, it's tape for sure. Yeah.
So, okay, one man's tape is another man's tape.
Right.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Susan. That was a word from our sponsors. We don't have sponsors, so we're just bringing in random things and having fun with it.
Thank you. It was fun.
Loved it.
You know, when we were kids, there used to be this candy bar called Bonomo. Do you remember Bonomo, Bonomo?
Mm-mm.
All right. Well, it was the worst candy you could possibly have because it was really like a cement taffy. All right.
Yummy.
So, listen, you'll love this story. My brother and I go to the dentist. We're probably like 8 and 10 or something like that. And the dentist was a neighborhood dentist, so we could walk there. We go to the dentist. We have fillings put in. We walk home and we have to walk by the grocery store. So we go into the grocery store and we have like 5 cents. So we buy a Bonomo. We eat the Bonomo and the filling fell out. Oh my God. My mother was furious. Furious. So there were no more Bonomos allowed in our house after that. Anyway. All right.
Ta-da-ta. God, this drink is good.
It is good. But can you imagine with cream of coconut in it? It would be fantastic.
Get lit. No.
Oh my God. I hope the glitter, I know the glitter is edible, but I hope it doesn't get caught in my
I'll
teeth
let you know
because my dentist will be upset.
If I sneeze glitter.
Oh my God.
All right, here we go. So I'm sure we'll have another podcast regarding, things that we've experienced personally, but I can tell you the death experiences that I have lived through not only have made me more generous and me more empathetic, but it's also allowed me to see the generosity in others. When someone takes their time to have flowers delivered to me in the past, I was, and please don't judge, but I was sort of, oh, thanks so much. Okay, on to the next thing. And now I really think, wow, they made that phone call. They thought of me first. They made that phone call to the flower shop, got their credit card out, spent some dough on me,
Yeah.
depending on the arrangement size. And, you know, a- and it's
No
just
carnations for you. Okay. Noted.
check mark. And please, no plastic flowers.
Oh, God.
I can't go
Those
there.
are the worst. You're
Oh,
right.
and the ones with dust, I can't. I just can't. I can't. So anyway, yeah, I feel like the more I have truly lived and experienced, not only allows me to be generous to others, but it allows me to see the generosity in other people.
Yeah.
And for me, I have to again set boundaries because I'm a giver. I'm a fixer. I'm a healer. And I don't know, I know you have those qualities. I think as all women, we have those qualities and we can over deliver and then find ourselves down in a hole emotionally, physically, whatever. But again, the word generosity means we can generate ourselves back to the state we want to be.
Yeah. And it's all entirely up to us. It's not like you learn from a podcast, or it's not like you go to school. Like it's a human experience that you have, and you say, you recognize it, that it could be helpful to somebody else.
Maybe that's why it's so shocking when you see a 16, 14, 10-year-old person doing something generous because they haven't lived a lot of years. It's sort of mind-blowing to me.
Well,
Like,
I agree,
wow.
but that's also parental guidance, I think. When you bring your child to the soup kitchen on Thanksgiving, that's a way to teach your family, your youngsters, about what generosity looks like and why it's important.
So as I was raised, I believe I was raised to be quote unquote fake generous. And let me describe that for you.
What does that mean?
So my mother always wanted to go into the party with the biggest gift. She wanted to go over to the neighbor's house with the biggest casserole. She wanted to be the biggest, the best, the best. And I think she was operating from fear of what people would say. And so for her, understandably so, if she over delivered, then people would love her, people would like her, and it was a safety net for her.
Interesting. Yeah, that's an interesting concept.
So I was raised, you don't bring one bottle of wine to the dinner party. I'm going to show up with two. And I've done this for years. And it's not until probably within the past 5 years, I wanted to say 10 years, but then I said, liar, liar, pants on fire. So probably within the last 5 years, I've realized you can't buy likes. You can't buy generosity. You can't fake generosity.
Yeah.
And you can't buy likes.
It's got to come from the heart.
It's got to
people
come from the heart.
see through it right away.
But it depends on what emotion is running you as a human being. So some people that are outwardly appearing generous, they might really be suffering from a severe anxiety of what people will think.
And where do you think that came from in your mother? Like, was her mother judgmental too, do you think? Or
I think it came from poverty. My parents did not, they weren't blessed with a wealthy childhood at all. And so the amount of lack that they had, they over-delivered in the over-giving department, trying to appear generous, which I kind of view as fake generosity.
Good point.
Yeah. So every now and again, Susan, I will come up with a good point.
You're not just all root canals, Dr. White. Okay, good.
It's not all drill and fill over here. So I think in a nutshell here, it's kind of like a loop. If I had to sort of summarize generosity, to me, it's about taking the focus off of yourself, putting the focus onto someone or something else, being generous in that way, whatever way that is, whatever shtick you got going. And then that being reciprocated by the people that you're being generous to, or just karmically it coming back to you. And it just continually loops around in a circle. And if you find yourself off of the loop or off of the horse, you can always remember that you can jump back on at any time because you have control.
Right. I think that's a good point. Oh, another good point.
Check. That's two checks.
Yeah. I think psychiatrists say if you feel down in the dump and you smile, like just make an effort to smile, that changes things inside of you. And the same could be true about generosity. When you just feel down in the dumps about yourself for whatever reason, just do a generous thing for somebody else. And I think that will, change you entirely.
I do too. And it boils down to a smile, basically.
Yep.
Okay. So I loved this conversation, or as they say, convo. So generosity is about the loop. It's as simple as a smile. You never know what you're going to get back in return. And you can only go up by being generous, so to speak.